In the top stories, government's new housing program officially underway. Minister Hamilton outlines the future housing projects and several high-level meetings taking place in the Federation this week. The details on these stories and more after the break. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I'm Carla Barrich. The first phase of the Team Unity Administration's Housing Solutions program got underway on Wednesday with a groundbreaking ceremony in Keyon. Cheryl Flanders tells us more.
The Team Unity Government's Housing Solutions program kicked off with a groundbreaking in the Cunningham Heights region of Keyon Village shortly after 9 a.m. Government officials, representatives from the St. Christopher Social Security Board, officials from the National Housing Corporation or NHC, members of the public and private sector and the Keyon community were seen in attendance at the ceremony. During his feature presentation, Minister of Human Settlement Honorable Eugene Hamilton said in keeping with his promise to ensure shelter is provided for the people of the Federation, the first phase of the groundbreaking had to begin in his hometown.
I took the opportunity a couple of weeks ago when we had our town hall meeting in Keyon, and I said there and then that I am the Minister of Human Settlement and that the housing, the work of NHC falls under my ministry, and that the program of housing development upon which we are about to embark, that the first nail will be knocked in Keyon.
Minister Hamilton also said that the Housing Solutions program will develop in 3 phases. He then announced that a total of 120 homes will be built in phase 1.
We're looking at this program in 3 phases. The first 6 months, the second 6, and the third 6, 18 months. And in the first 6 months, we are looking at somewhere between the vicinity of 100 to 120 perhaps homes that will be constructed. I think the chairman mentioned some of the areas which I would not go into at this particular point. But we are commencing here, and here on this ground, we have the opportunity to do as many as 50. But we will commence in the first 6 months with about 15 in this area, because after all, this constituency has other communities that have to be attended to.
He also thanked the people of St. Kitts for their patience and NHC for their continued support.
I want to thank the people of St. Kitts for their patience. I say patience because I know that housing is always in great demand. And after 2 years, I could understand your impatience. But after 2 years, the Team Unity has delivered. With 3 more years to go, you will be satisfied with the Team Unity government. And I also want to say to the management of NHC that I really do respect the choice that you have made to give locals an opportunity to benefit from that.
The Unity Housing Solutions program was made possible through a $50 million loan from the Social Security Board that partnered with the government through a reinvigorated and re-energized National Housing Corporation. Under the Unity Housing Solution program, at least 300 homes are expected to be built through St. Kitts Nevis and will feature an income-based repayment plan. Reporting for ZIZ News, I am Shaira Flanders.
Meanwhile, Minister of Human Settlement Honorable Eugene Hamilton says the government has future plans for more housing projects in several rural communities. During Tuesday night's town hall meeting in Sadlers, Minister Hamilton laid out what's in store for some of the areas.
Let me tell you, in this community, in fact in this constituency, we have 4 areas that we've already identified where housing will be built. There are Race Course, that is in Newton Ground, Rollins in St. Paul's, Sadlers right here, Sadlers Park, and Lavington. So that the people in this community will be engaged, will be involved in the work of the Team Unity government to the fullest extent.
Minister Hamilton said the launch of the Cunningham Heights housing project was just the beginning and repeated the government's commitment to providing affordable quality housing for the people of the Federation. The government is working towards resolving a land issue with the pastor and congregation of the New Birth Gospel Tabernacle Church in Keyon. That's according to a release issued by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Services. This comes as Pastor Cyprian Williams stood outside government headquarters on Wednesday afternoon in an apparent act of protest. According to the statement, Attorney General Honorable Vincent Byron said today that the government has been working to resolve the issue with the lawyers of Reverend Cyprian Williams, pastor of the New Birth Gospel Tabernacle. According to the Attorney General, New Birth Gospel Tabernacle had been erected on a temporary site and that Reverend Williams had obtained a piece of land in an area zoned as residential to build his church. However, the residents of the area objected to building the church in their community and filed complaints to the St. Kitts Nevis Development Control and Planning Board. Subsequent to the complaints, the Development Control and Planning Board in October 2016 revoked the decision for the building of the church on the land that was protested. Since then, his lawyers had written to the Planning Board, and the Ministry of Sustainable Development has been trying to resolve it by offering an alternative site. There is an offer on the table, and it is hoped that Pastor Williams and his congregation will accept the offer, said Attorney General Byron. St. Kitts and Nevis will be the hub of activity this week as Caribbean leaders are expected to meet here for a series of high-level regional meetings. Taking place this week are the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's Growth Forum with social partners, meeting of the ECCB Monetary Council, and the 64th meeting of the OECS Authority. The event kicks off on Wednesday with the ECCB Growth Forum with social partners at the Sir Cecil Jacobs Auditorium. That meeting will seek to address the challenges and opportunities for more inclusive growth in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU. ECCB Governor Timothy Antoine is also expected to address the topic growth and employment in the ECCU. On Thursday, March 2nd, the Monetary Council of the ECCB, the institution's highest decision-making body, will convene at ECCB headquarters for the 87th meeting. Then on Friday, March 3rd, regional leaders will again gather for the 64th meeting of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS Authority, at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort. St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister and Chair of the OECS Authority, Dr. The Honorable Timothy Harris, will lead the local delegations to all three events. The leaders are expected to address matters relating to healthcare, agriculture, climate change, and security within the sub-region. After the break, Customs and Police scores second major cocaine seizure for 2017, and police investigating shooting in Sandy Point. We'll tell you more when we come back. The Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation's CW Housing Development at Maddens will add 30 homes to the housing market on Nevis. At a groundbreaking ceremony on February 24th, Nevis's Minister of Housing and Lands, Honorable Alexis Jeffers, wished the project well and congratulated prospective owners. He said the $8.4 million project will also provide for an additional 20 houses to be constructed on private lands. He also paid homage to the minister responsible for Social Security, Honorable Vance Amory, for his efforts in making the $10 million loan possible for the corporation. Mr. Jeffers also thanked the Social Security Board for its assistance and said it continues to play a vital role in the provision of loan funding for housing developments on Nevis. He said the project will generate economic activity for contractors, their workers, and the various subcontractors who will be employed there. The housing development is 5.93 acres and consists of 31 lots, including a common area. The lot sizes range from 5,000 to 6,226 square feet. The area offers views of the Atlantic Ocean with Nevis Peak in the backdrop. A combined operation by the Customs and Excise Department and the police force has led to the arrest of a passenger at the Vance Amory International Airport on Friday and the second major cocaine seizure of 2017. Brittany Paolo Peets, an 18-year-old resident of Malone Avenue, McKnight, was detained on suspicion of possession of a controlled substance. She was arrested after investigations discovered she had 2.5 kilos of cocaine in her luggage. Peets had been charged for possession of cocaine with intent to supply, and importation of cocaine. According to the police, other charges are likely to be filed by the Customs Service. Assistant Commissioner of Police Terence James, head of the Operations Directorate, said this interdiction is another success of the collaboration with our partnering agencies. It is this kind of cooperation that will deliver results. I commend both the customs officers and our anti-drug unit. Detectives from the Violent Crimes Unit and officers of the Sandy Point Police Station are investigating a shooting incident in the Mount Idle area of Sandy Point that has left one person injured. According to a press release from the police, the shooting occurred at about 7:25 a.m. on Wednesday. The police say an unknown assailant fired a number of shots at a vehicle with 4 occupants. A female occupant was hit in the upper arm and was transported to the Joseph and Franz General Hospital for treatment. The police are asking anyone with information about the incident to call the Violent Crimes Unit at 465-2241, Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477, or use the SKN Crime Reporter app. The investigation is ongoing. The Ministry of National Security is partnering with the Coalition for Support of Security Initiatives and the management of the Four Seasons Resort to host Part 2 of the National Crime Symposium. The event will take place at the Four Seasons Resort on Thursday, March 2nd. Premier of Nevis Honorable Vance Amory will deliver opening remarks, while crime reduction specialist and social skills consultant Dr. Niels Chaitan will make a short presentation to over 50 participants on the 3 roots of crime that did not receive sufficient attention during the group activity in St. Kitts. The main objectives of the workshop include reviewing the strategies and recommendations emanating from the National Crime Symposium held in St. Kitts, with a view to further clarifying and strengthening recommended strategies where necessary. On February 9th, over 200 citizens and residents from a wide cross-section of society attended Part 1 of the National Crime Reduction Symposium at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort and Royal Beach Casino. Coming up, Guyana-Suriname Council meets after 10 years, and Trinidadians go to Mass for Ash Wednesday. The details when we come back.
Can you afford to lose everything? In times of uncertainty, ensure you have the security of Quartz Payment Protection. When you shop with Quartz Ready Finance Gold or Ultimate Plan, if you lose your job after 6 months of making payments, our redundancy coverage ensures that the payment on your account continues for up to 12 months. Don't risk losing everything. Shop with Quartz Ready Finance and get the payment protection plan that protects you against redundancy, disability, death, and loss of item due to natural disaster, fire, flood, or theft. Quartz Ready Finance with payment protection. Quartz, bringing value home.
Ash Wednesday marks the start of Lent in the Christian calendar. Many Christians in Trinidad were seen celebrating the event at the Ash Wednesday Mass ceremony early Wednesday morning. CNews' Diane Batiste has more.
Ash Wednesday marks the first day of Lent, a 40-day period which precedes Easter on the Christian calendar. In observation of Lent, Christians use the time as a period of prayer, reflection, and penance. It's a time where the sacrifice of Jesus, who according to the Bible withdrew to the wilderness where he fasted 40 days before his crucifixion. Ash Wednesday signifies the end of the carnival season and heralds the start of Lent, a period of repentance, moderation, and spiritual discipline. From as early as 6 o'clock this morning, persons made their way to the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception for prayers and communion. The priest interceded on behalf of all citizens, praying for their forgiveness.
Celebrating his death and resurrection, we offer you, Lord, the bread of life and the chalice of salvation, giving thanks that you have brought us worthy to be in your presence as minister to you. And we pray that, partaking of the body and blood of Christ, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit.
It is customary for some people to fast for the entire Lenten period, while others fast from meat only on Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, and all Fridays of Lent. Many others choose to give up a vice, a favorite food, alcohol, and even smoking for the entire 40-day period. Dion Batiste, C News.
The Guyana-Suriname Cooperation Council has officially met after more than 10 years. We hear more in this report.
The 7th session of the Guyana-Suriname Cooperation Council was declared open on Monday after a pause for about a decade. The Guyana-Suriname Cooperation Council aims to further strengthen cooperation between the neighboring states. Guyana's Foreign Minister Carl Greenidge charged reps from both countries to ensure that the two countries deepen their ties. The Foreign Minister also calls for the Council to move away from just signing agreements, but to ensure that those agreements are implemented.
Far too often, agreements are signed and appear to be ends in and of themselves. This must be changed. This Council must go beyond signing of agreements to ensuring good faith implementation of the agreed to activities. Once this is done, I'm sure that the burden you carry, and to which I referred earlier, will be much appreciated.
Minister Greenidge said that the absence of the Cooperation Council did not prevent Guyana and Suriname from cooperating on various fronts. He made clear that the neighboring countries share close relationships, even when there were disagreements among them and also among other member states.
Guyana and Suriname have proven over the years that whilst we are neighbors, it is even more valuable to be good friends. Good friends have knowledge, share knowledge. They combine resources, join their singular strengths for mutual advantage, and make use of their differing abilities and skill sets to advance their causes. These are the sentiments that must become the values in the relations between Guyana and Suriname if we are to take advantage of the symmetries and indeed the differences in our economic, health, technological, natural resources, educational, security, and general socio-economic realities.
Head of the Surinamese delegation, Ambassador Dr. John Colleder, said the reconvening of the Council provides a new beginning for the strengthening of cooperation between Guyana and Suriname and expressed the need to accelerate efforts of cooperation between the two countries.
I think it's a very, very crucial instrument for promoting the friendship between and cementing the friendship between the two countries and peoples. As you have said, the Cooperation Council is an essential mechanism, not only to monitor the cooperation between the two countries as what it used to be, but merely to develop, to deepen, and to boost the relations.
When Suriname's President Desi Bouterse was on a state visit last year, President Granger and his Surinamese counterpart had pledged to re-establish the Guyana-Suriname Cooperation Council. The two heads also promised to appoint a special envoy whose main responsibility will be to advance the implementation of agreements reached by the two states. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Coming up, Iraqi troops close on government buildings in West Mosul. The details when we come back. While talks involving the government and Syrian opposition continue in Geneva, on the ground, civilians continue to suffer. 1 week into the talks, the possibility of a resolution remains uncertain. Al Jazeera's Andrew Simon reports.
It's not a target for warplanes. That's one thing for which the people crammed into the space below are grateful. But what was once a small makeshift transit camp beside the Turkish border is now known as a tented city, and it isn't welcoming. Cities have roads and good facilities, but the Atma camp has rutted tracks that turn into quagmires when it rains. Sanitation is poor, dignity is in short supply, and perhaps more disturbing than what's seen or heard is what's going through the minds of the displaced. Experiences relived, trauma. The escape from East Aleppo figures large in this, and there's anger towards the global powers for the deal that was done to evacuate eastern Aleppo.
They pay a lot of money to fight terror. Let them also pay it to fight this criminal regime and its Shia militants. They captured us. 800 people trying to get out of Aleppo. For 3 to 4 hours, no one knew what happened to us. In that time, they killed so many people, those Shia gangs. We don't trust any foreign power now. They sold us out.
That level of bitterness isn't hard to find in the new type of deprivation these people find themselves. The population of eastern Aleppo was herded out of a terrifying siege, only to find itself now in uncertainty, and the fear is still there. This family feels afraid of what the future may hold. Al Jazeera last visited them shortly after they arrived early in January in this small camp near Azaz in the countryside north of Aleppo city. This is how they are now. The weather may have improved, but nothing else has.
No one cares about us or even tries to help. We've asked them to find medicine for this child. We've been here for over 2 months and only had 1 aid box. Everything is expensive. My husband has no work. He's just stuck in this tent.
Her husband is angry because he feels betrayed. He says the revolution may be lost now.
We blame the Syrian army and the gangs. They displaced us from our homes. We can't do anything now. We can only hope God can end this suffering and Assad leaves with his regime and we can go back to our homes.
It's hard to take in, but this husband and wife say they'd sooner be back in the old family home under bombardment than living here. Andrew Simmons, Al Jazeera, Gaziantep.
The Iraqi military is now within firing range of the main government buildings in the west of Mosul, a major target in their bid to retake ISIL's stronghold. US-backed forces are locked in street battles with the armed group's fighters, and they are also working to repair a major bridge to bring supplies over the Riviera Tigris. But civilians continue to be caught in the crossfire. More in this report.
Exhausted, they make their way through barren land. There are no buses or trucks here to help them over the harsh terrain. Their homes now caught in the crossfire, and they say they have no choice but to leave western Mosul.
We are totally devastated and tired. Look behind you and you can see. Families struggling to make it to safety. Some of them almost died. Aren't we Muslims? Have compassion towards us.
The security forces do what they can. Almost 8,000 people have fled from this area since the push to retake it from ISIL was announced just over a week ago. The fight is now inside the western part of the city. It is slow and dangerous. ISIL is putting up fierce resistance using snipers, armed drones and booby traps. This is an armored car which would have been driven by a suicide bomber. The Iraqi forces managed to intercept it. And these vehicles another common tactic ISIL uses to attack the advancing forces. And finding them before they are used in a suicide mission feels like a victory every time. This is the Al Josak neighborhood close to the Tigris River. They have to clear the area house by house, using ISIL's own defense tactics to protect themselves, moving through holes in the walls. Iraqi forces are now in control here, but that's a relative term in this war.
We have retaken the Al Josak neighbourhood. You can see the bodies of ISIL fighters all over the place. By the help of God, we shall hoist the Iraqi flag on other neighbourhoods and on the 4th bridge as well.
Iraqi forces have now secured the so-called fourth bridge, the farthest south of the 5 bridges that cross the Tigris. An important military objective. They say they will first fix it and then use it to connect and resupply from the east. The forces are now only a few kilometers away from Mosul's heart, the densely populated old city, home to the great Mosque of Al-Nouri, from where ISIL's leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi declared his so-called caliphate in 2014.
Reaching the old city will be significant, but it will also mark a dangerous phase in what is already a fierce war. Its alleyways are narrow and winding, meaning Iraqi forces will lose the cover of their vehicles, and this battle will boil down to man to man. There's also many civilians who live there, which will further complicate this fight. And the old city may well be where the decisive battle for Mosul is fought. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera, Erbil.
Up next in sports, we have the St. Kitts Cricket Association's election results, and Michael Phelps calls for more drug testing in swimming. Stay tuned.
Can you afford to lose everything? In times of uncertainty, ensure you have the security of Quartz Payment Protection. When you shop with Quartz Ready Finance Gold or Ultimate Plan, if you lose your job after 6 months of making payments, our redundancy coverage ensures that the payment on your account continues for up to 12 months. Don't risk losing everything. Shop with Quartz Ready Finance and get the payment protection plan that protects you against redundancy, disability, death, and loss of item due to natural disaster, fire, flood, or theft. Quartz Ready Finance with payment protection. Quartz, bringing value home.
The St. Kitts Cricket Association has elected executive and management committees to manage the affairs of the association for the next 2 years. At a biennial meeting at the St. Kitts Cricket Association, which was held in the players' dining room at the Warner Park Cricket Stadium, Dennis Phillip was elected president, Charles Morton vice president, Carleen Daly secretary, Steve Saunders treasurer, and Robert Jeffers assistant secretary treasurer. The other persons elected to the management committee are Ruth Connor, Elvis Isaac, Hester Rawlings, Stanley Franks Jr., and Yvette Brown. The management committee will be completed with a nominee from the St. Kitts Umpires Association. The elections were conducted by Mr. Jeffrey Pedro Hazel, the Deputy Director of Sports. All of the members of the executive and management committees were elected unopposed. President Phillip thanked the members for the confidence that they have placed in his team and looks forward to the cooperation of all in promoting the game of cricket in St. Kitts. He also thanked the past members of the management committee for the sterling services they rendered to the association in the past. Michael Phelps testified in front of Congress on Tuesday in Washington, D.C. The Olympic great told lawmakers that if stricter drug testing and anti-doping laws were not soon put in place, athletes would become disillusioned.
I'd like to stand up on the block in international competition and know that the other 7 competitors that I'm racing against prepared just like I did.
Michael Phelps is the most decorated Olympian of all time, but he believes he has never competed against a clean international field. The retired American swimmer who won 23 Olympic gold medals urged greater international policing of doping in sport. Phelps told a U.S. congressional hearing on improving anti-doping measures this week that the time to act is now. He says, "I know that when I do stand up in the U.S., I know we're all clean because we're going through the same thing."
Pele once famously predicted an African country would win the World Cup before the year 2020. The Brazilian football legend may have gotten their forecast wrong, but young players from the continent are excelling. Converting junior success into something similar at the senior level is one of the big challenges now facing African football. Al Jazeera's Andy Richardson reports from Zambia.
This Cup of Nations is about much more than regional rivalry. It will also decide which African teams go to the Under-20 World Cup. And history would suggest Zambian fans are getting an early look at many of the players who'll stand out at that tournament. When it comes to age group football, Africa has few equals. In Zambia's capital, Lusaka, young players train in the hope they too can one day make it to the highest level.
They know that some of these players that we are watching today, playing high-profile football, be it from Ghana, Nigeria, they are coming from poor backgrounds. Even here in Zambia, we have players that came from very, very poor backgrounds, and today they are playing good football.
At under 17 level, Africa is the dominant global force. Nigeria alone have won 3 of the last 5 World Cup finals. And there's been big success at under 20 level. Ghana won the world title in 2009, and in 2015, Mali and Senegal reached the semi-finals. But at senior level, no African team has ever got beyond the quarter-finals at a World Cup. Former Zambian international Tennant Chilumba played his club football in Africa, Asia and Europe. He says the problems for national sides can start when the players leave their hometown teams and get used to different training cultures.
When you are coaching the junior team, all the players that are from the local league, you can monitor them, you can see, look at their performance, you can assemble a good team. Unlike in the senior team, you only coach the player when he join the team maybe for 3 days, so it's quite difficult.
Many seasoned African football observers believe attitudes can also change as a player's career progresses abroad.
Under 17 and under 20 level, the players are looking to make a name for themselves. They are wearing the shade of their nations with a lot of pride because they're not big stars yet. But when they begin getting these big monies, they are in Spain, they are in England, they are in Italy, it changes the trajectory of how they respond to call-ups to the national team and eventually even how they perform when they're with the national teams.
The players competing at this Cup of Nations, the latest generation, with the chance to prove this is the beginning and not the peak of their national endeavours. Andy Richardson, Al Jazeera, Lusaka, Zambia.
When we come back, we'll have another look at the stories that made the headlines. Recapping the top stories. Government's new housing program officially underway. Minister Hamilton outlines the future housing projects. Several high-level meetings taking place in the Federation this week. And that's the end of the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Verge. Goodbye.